Hi, I'm Lee, and this is my podcast about my handmade life. I'm on Instagram as Instamatic Louleigh and on Ravelry as Louleigh, and we also have a Ravelry group that you can come and join and say hello. And I am a purveyor of fine knitting bags, and now I sell needle cases and hand-dyed yarn as well. And you can find me as Shop Louleigh on Etsy. Once again, I am being joined by my hairy chums. I have two little doggies, and so they are distracting me. I am just giving one a tickle down here, and I thought I had given him a good groom this morning, and I have just found a massive knot. We must have missed that for days, boy, days. So yes, my puppy has been fluffed to within an inch of his life, and he has come up to join me today and distract me. So, but you guys are used to that by now. Or if you've not been here before, you're about to get used to it. So yes, and he's just promptly sat down on my show notes, which is quite typical as well. I'm going to pull them out because there were some things that I really wanted to say today. Yeah, so the first thing I wanted to say is the 31st of December, and so we're about to embark on a bold new year, and I really wanted to take a minute and say thank you for sharing this year for me. It's been really nice, and one of the things that I like about podcasting is that it carries on a conversation that I'm having with the knitting community, and I sort of feel like I'm joining in a bit, and so having you guys in my life has been very enriching. I tend to be a little bit reclusive here in the East Riding of Yorkshire, and so it's lovely to have some knitting chums, quite a few knitting chums, some of whom have turned into real life chums as well, which is just lovely. Yeah, some lovely knitting chums that I can chat about my passion with. Yeah, so thank you very much. It's been wonderful to have you along. I'm sorry, I keep twitching and looking at this dog, this distracting dog. So thank you for joining me this year. It's lovely to have you along for the ride, and I hope you'll join me again next year. Right, show notes. I'm going to stick to the show notes because I don't feel like I've got a big heap of things to talk about, but I do have a few things that I want to remember, and clearly I am being completely distracted by a little fluffy puppy. Maybe I should show him to you. Come on, are you going to sit up and come here? Come on, little fluffy puppy. Here's my fluffy puppy. Hi, boy. Oh, you're supposed to look this way. Hey, come on. Look over here. What you look? No, you want to get down there. Oh, I don't want to get below at all. So what about knitters? He's not a big fan of knitting. It engages the dog scratches. It's a good thing I did write show notes, because otherwise I would have completely forgotten that the first thing I wanted to talk to you about was community news. As I mentioned, there is a Louleigh group on Ravelry, and we have a couple of cows going on. The main one is the Knit 1000 grams cow, and gosh, you guys have been going great guns with that. I am up to 596 grams. Yes, but there's some people that are onto their second 1000 grams and have been eating up their stash like nobody's business. And it's wonderful to go over there and see all the chatter that's been going on and support for different people and ideas and things. And I love seeing people's finished objects. There's some marvellous socks over there. And all sorts of other things as well. It's really nice to see what you've been knitting, and to see some people sort of have themes in their knitting or things that they've been doing, and to track your projects over a period of time. That's been really fun. What else did I want to say about that? Oh yes, there was a prize draw on Boxing Day. Well, it wasn't on Boxing Day because I completely forgot to do it. However, I did draw from the finished objects thread on the 27th at breakfast time, so it was kind of sort of Boxing Day. And Well Woman was the winner, and I'm going to send off the pom-pom magazine to her when the post office opens. I think it's open on Tuesday, so I shall pop it into the post then. I shall make you up a little parcel and send it off for you to enjoy with a nice cup of coffee or tea or whatever it is that you like to drink. So the next motivational, that cowl is going until March. I've forgotten what the date is. It'll be on here somewhere. Oh, when does it end? I've forgotten when. It's on the Edinburgh Yarn Festival anyway, the 10th of March. Yeah, so that's running until then. Hopefully I will finish my own cowl in that time. I think I should. I've just got to do the sleeves on the infamous blue cardigan. I should get that back out. Yeah, so the next motivational prize draw is on the 6th of February, and the lovely Louise from Knit British has donated a tote bag for the winner of that draw. And if you're interested in knitting locally and you haven't listened to Knit British, then I highly recommend her podcast. It's an audio podcast, and she talks a lot about yarns that are local to us here in the UK. So yes, pop over there if that's something that you're interested in. The other cowl that we have going on in the group is the Knickers Along, and I have been amassing stuff for my next foray into making undies, and I had kind of thought I would have a go at it in between Christmas and New Year, because I have been taking a staycation. Well, it's more like a hibernation actually. I've been hiding in my house and sleeping and knitting and eating all the leftover goodies from Christmas. Yeah, so I'm just waiting for a couple of materials to come for that, mainly knicker elastic, because you don't want them falling down or anything. So I'm just waiting for those things to come, and then I have a couple of patterns that I'm going to try, and a couple of people have suggested patterns as well. There is a thread over in the Ravelry group, so if you're interested in making knickers, then please do pop along and share what you're using and your patterns, and I hope to be chopping into some fabric in the next couple of weeks. I want to have another go at the pattern. I want to adjust the pattern that I used before, and also try a new one using stretch materials. So that should be really interesting. I want to see if I can find a pattern that's really comfortable, so I can just make undies as I need them, rather than having to buy a pack of 5 all at once. Who needs 5 pairs of undies? I don't have 5 pairs of undies that wear out all at once. Maybe I should buy flasher undies that only come in ones or something like that. Anyway, that's probably more than you need to know about my underwear preferences. So that is what is going on over in the Louleigh group at the moment, and it would be lovely to hear from you over there. And if you've not come along and introduced yourself, then it would be wonderful to hear from you. Right, so the first thing that I wanted to show you was, I suppose it's a finished object, but it's not really a usable thing yet. I have been fractal spinning this Corriedale. This came from Easy Knits, and I had 200 grams of fibre, and I've just realised that I haven't brought along any of the stats about, I think it's about a 4-ply or a sport weight. I forget how many grams I got in the finish. It should be close to 200. And I did a fractal spin with this one. So what that means is that I took the first 100 grams of top and I spun it from end to end so that I would have really long colour repeats. And then I took the second 100 grams of top and I split it horizontally into quite a few sections. I think it was about 4 or 5 sections, so that I would have short colour repeats. And then I have plied it all into a 2-ply so that I should kind of have a gradient that moves in from one colour to another, a little bit like a Zelda ball, I think. And yeah, this is my second fractal spin ever, and this is the first time I've used a hand-dyed top for it. I've just got a little bit of fibre under my nose. And I have picked out a pattern to try for this. Where has it gone? My puppy's on it. Dastardly dog. I've decided to use the Castra pattern by Anthony Casalina because it has lots of sort of short row and mesh sections in it. Is there a picture here that I can show you without showing you the whole pattern? You might be able to see this picture. I don't know how well that will show up. It has lots of short row and mesh segments in it, and so I think it's not going to be a really obvious stripe, but if there's going to be those sort of gradient colour changes, that could be quite an interesting pattern to knit up. The other thing is that I think I can alter this pattern quite easily depending on how much yardage I've got. I've not actually thought about yardage yet, or measured or counted or anything sensible like that. I'm just going to cast on and do it. So we'll see how that turns out. Yeah, but I'm really pleased with the way this has spun up. I was trying to spin more loosely for a fine yarn, and I think this looks really like a really nice yarn. And I'm quite excited to see how it will be knitted. Now, since I've seen you last, I have also finished this curl, and it is a shawl pattern in Hunter Hammerson's book of curls. I think it's the second one, and it's called Chicanery. And I've been intrigued by the curl patterns for a while because they're done in a way where you can use any gauge of yarn, and you can use up the majority of your yarn without having large leftovers or anything, because you just carry on until you get to the end of one of the repeats. And so I was really intrigued on how wearable the shape would be, and yeah, just on how versatile they would be in my wardrobe. So I'm going to take this off and show it to you. We'll see how that goes. You might get, where did I stick my microphone? Oh, the other thing is I've been experimenting with a shawl pin because I thought that would be kind of fun. And I was given this one for Christmas from the Hairy Man. It's made of bronze and came from Alternative. I'll put that in the show notes, off Etsy. And I thought it was quite pretty. So anyway, let's see how this goes. So here we go. Whoops. If I come back a bit, you can kind of see that it's quite a long circular shape, which was a bit tricky to block out. Unfortunately, the light is not really showing up this beautiful yarn. It is Viola from John Arbon. I wonder if I can, that's a little bit better just there. No, focus here please. and it has such a beautiful depth of colour. It's the cinnamon colour, and it's a DK weight yarn, and I've had 2 skeins in my stash for quite some time, and I was kind of kicking myself for not having just bought a jumper's worth, because I'm not sure you can get this colour anymore. Actually, there was another really beautiful sort of neutral colour that had flecks of gold in it that I'm wishing I had purchased as well. Let's see if I can get this on without making a complete mess of it. Actually, before I do, the interesting thing about this shape is that I didn't start and finish where I thought I was going to. I won't say much more about that because it might give away some of the secret sauce, but it was lots of fun to knit, and as I say, it was nice to be able to use up the better part of the yarn that I had. That beeping in the background is the dishwasher telling me it's finished. So there you go. I bet you are enjoying hearing all of my domestic noises. Yeah, so I've been trying out my new shawl pin and different ways of wearing this particular shape, and I think I quite like it. I like to have my shawls right up around my neck to keep me nice and cozy, and I definitely really like the yarn. It's just so soft and lovely, and as I say, the colours, because it's sort of like a blend of similar shades, the colours are really deep and really pretty. So yes, that is my chicanery curl by Hunter Hammerson. This is the sock segment. And over the last month, sock madness has ensued here. I think sock madness has kind of gripped us all for the last year, and it just seems to have gone insane here in December. The first pair of socks that I want to show you are actually a finished pair, and these are my Advent socks. So I was given an Advent calendar by the lovely Linda Thompson 23, and she had made little bobbins of yarn and put them into numbered envelopes so that I could open one every day for Advent and knit a little bit of my socks. These are damp because I've been wearing them every day since, and it was so much fun trying out all of these yarns that I hadn't come across before and hadn't had a go with, and it was really exciting. I was like a kid at Christmas opening all the little envelopes and going, "Ooh, look at this," and being able to just knit a little stripe that day. As I say, they're damp and they smell very strongly of the wool wash that I put them in earlier. However, I think these are the best socks I've ever knitted, and not just for the excitement factor, for the fit factor as well. Actually, that's exciting. There's so many memories in this sock. So this was a Knit Picks order that Linda and I put in together, and then there's socks here that I remember her knitting. This is a hat that she's got, and there's a couple of these two are my hand dyed yarns, and this was one that I did for our Shetland trip, a self-striping yarn. So it was, in that respect, it's been a really fun project. The other thing is that these are finally, I think, the best fitting socks that I have ever knitted. So I've done a square heel because I've been telling you for a while that I like the way that fits my heel, but I have finally done it nice and deep. I think I've done about 40 rows on the heel flap, so that the fabric doesn't stretch across the front of my foot. And I've also decided that I really like the swirl toe for my foot. So you decrease in 4 spots equally around the toe, and you do it every other row until you've got rid of half the stitches, and then I do it every row until I only have 4 stitches left on each needle, and then I just Kitchener. And I've tried the star toe before where you decrease in 8 places, but I find that that's actually too short. My toe box is quite long. I've got long toes, there you go. So I prefer the swirl toe, and so I think between getting the heel just right and getting the toe just right, these are the best socks I have ever knitted. But I can't bring myself to cut off the ends, so they're just floating around inside the socks. I've worn them for several times now and washed them several times, so I think the ends are just there to stay. I don't know why it is. Maybe just a weird thing. So yes, that is the first pair of socks that I have on the go. And the next pair of socks are actually before I show you these, this is a spoiler alert. If you are lost and found, then you should fast forward to this time here if you don't want to see your socks. These are pay it forward socks, and I'm making them. So if you fast forward, you won't spoil yourself. And are you ready? Have you gone? I hope so. So this is the first sock, and have I bought the tag and everything? Crikey. I'm on to sock number 2. This is a wool barn yarn, and it is luxury sock, which is a merino cashmere nylon, and it's in the birthday party colourway, and I really love all those soft speckles. I think they're wonderful. And I had given Lost and Found a selection of yarns to choose from, and I'm so pleased she chose this one. It's going to be so luxe on her feet. If you're still here looking, you should have fast forwarded. Anyway, so yeah, and this is just a little pattern that I didn't make it up myself. It's just a mistake 2x1 rib. So I do one row just of plain knitting around, and then I do a knit 2 purl 1 rib all the way around. And I don't find, for some reason, I don't find that as arduous as the blueberry waffle sock, but I really like the texture that it makes. I don't know if you can see that there. And then I've just done my normal square heel, and I have actually done a star toe on this because I had got carried away with the knitting and then realised that I probably needed to finish off the sock. So yeah, they're going to be lovely. They feel so nice. So that is the first pair of socks. Well, the second pair of socks I have on the go. First pair because I've already finished there. Oh, I'm not sure. Anyway, that is a pair of socks I have on the go. And then after that, I have the Hairy Man socks. Now, if you have been watching for a while, you will know that I am knitting 3 pairs of socks for the Hairy Man for Christmas. And you're going, but haha, Christmas is over. And the Hairy Man is offshore and has been offshore for the whole of the Christmas period. So I have a reprieve, which is probably pretty good because his feet are just massive. Well, they're size 11s. I'm sure others of you have hairy men about who have size 11 feet. I've got ends and everything here. As you can see, I've been knitting them concurrently. And the reason for that is because I think I'm going to run out of yarn. I have a contingency plan in case I do run out of yarn for these. And I am using ladybug fibre, and this is a superwash. Can you see that? Let me just focus. A superwash merino bamboo mix, and the colourway is quinoa. But yes, I think I'm going to get at least most of the way towards the toes, and then I have a cunning plan. I've got a yarn that kind of goes with this that I can do the toes in. But I feel like, I mean, they're almost long enough to have been sleeves. I mean, crikey, Who has feet that big? Well, clearly there. Anyway, so those are those ones that are coming along. I think these will be the next ones that I've finished, because then I don't want to be caught out with the hairy man coming home and me saying, oh, I've not finished your Christmas present. So yes, I'm doing these on Magic Loop, and I saw this idea on Eric from the Sticks Plus Twine podcast. He had put his needle holder, he'd left his needles actually on the stitches and just put his needle holder over it, and like usually I pull them right through and then put the needles in the needle holder, but I really like this idea. It's like ready to go, just have to pull your needle through. So I really liked that way of doing it. Yeah, I've still got a wee bit of yarn left, so you never know, I might actually get right to the end. I'll see how I go. And I still have one more pair of socks on the go. So this was my little bobbins Christmas Eve cast on. And I have done this little lace pattern before, but a number of people cajoled me into well, they haven't really cajoled me, they just said it would be a good idea to write up the pattern, so I thought I would do that. Can you see that there? And so I wanted to make another pair just to test out the pattern and make sure I had it just the way that I wanted it. But this was the Little Bobbins Christmas Eve cast on. I'm really loving this yarn. It is from Baronvola, not sure how you say that, but the card is all crinkly anyway, so. And it is her barefoot sock in the vanilla sprinkle colourway, and it's such a delicate colour. Actually, you can see it really well in this light, with this beautiful soft vanilla yellowy colour, creamy colour. Can you see it really well in this light, with lovely sprinkles of pink and green. It's just beautiful. I'm really enjoying knitting with this, and it's such a voluminous yarn. It's very round and spongy, so I think these are going to be lovely socks. Been really enjoying that. It's got bits of orange and purple. It's just so delicately done. Yeah, really pretty. So that is the last pair of socks I'm working on. However, I have had a sock byproduct project. So let me just get this out. This was the bag that my advent calendar came in, and I really like the colours of it. I really like the oranges and the blues and the lime green and those ones. And as I finished each stripe of my advent sock, I had little bits left over. So I have just magic knotted them together into this little ball of yarn. And you are saying, haha, Lee, what are you doing with those? I have fallen down the crochet rabbit hole. However, I shall say this now. This is not a blanket. Blankets here are doomed to neglect and failure. So I think when I get to the end of that little ball, I might just put a board around it, give it a wash and call it done until I get another little ball of scraps. But the thing that I really like about this project is that you can use really short ends of yarn. One of these little triplets of trebles only takes about it's less than 30 centimetres of yarn. It's only about 20 or 25 centimetres of yarn. And I have just been magic knotting my yarns together and using up really tiny wee little scraps. So if I have leftovers that are big enough for a mitered square, then I pass those on to my mother-in-law who's making a mitered square blanket. And if it's not big enough, I'm keeping them for this project. And as I say, it's like, so it really is the scrappiest of scraps. I feel very virtuous when I'm making this because it's really quite small. And I decided just to make a granny square because when I was growing up, my mother had a blanket which was just a giant granny square, and I was quite envious of it. It looked so cozy and nice, and it kind of moulded around her body when she was using it. And so I was always kind of envious of that blanket and fancied having one of my own. And the other thing was that I knew if I actually started a blanket that it was probably not going to ever get finished. So I thought if I just make a granny square, at the moment that's just a coaster, isn't it? So, or a placemat or something. So yes, I'm just going to work on that when I'm excited about it. But we're not mentioning the B word. It's not one of those because that would lead to doom. So yes, just been saving my scrappy ends up for that, and I have a ball of, everybody has a ball of white lying around, don't they? So when it comes to a point where I feel like it's kind of done for now, then I shall put a board around it, and if I feel like carrying on, then I shall. But I've quite enjoyed doing that. I think granny squares are kind of like the extent of my crocheted ability. But yeah, good fun. And so that is the end of my little chat with you today. It's been lovely to talk to you again, and I'm really pleased to have had you along. Thank you again for joining me this year, and I hope to see you in the next year. Cheerio! Ooh! Just elbowed my dog in the head. Hello, Fluffy boy. I didn't know you were there. What are you doing here? Oh, you poor thing. You look so stunned. Poor puppy. Oh dear.